Hello, welcome back to the 7-day Detox to Destiny Life Cleanse. I'm so happy you're here. We're on day 3 and we're dealing from letting go of the past. We're going to be moving into how to embody and come to the present and how to vision into your most authentic future. And I want to invite you to put away all distractions. The conversation with this amazing guest teacher today is going to be incredible, and we are discussing some amazing stuff. But before we get into her topic and all the things we're going to talk about, I want to introduce you to our beautiful Aingeal Rose O'Grady. Love the name. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, and I was just saying to Aingeal that the way her name is spelled, it's like angel, and she's like, that's what it means in, is it Irish?
Irish.
Yeah.
Gaelic. Is it Gaelic? Yeah, it's Gaelic.
Gaelic. Okay. And it's also pretty incredible because of what you do. And so our beautiful Aingeal Rose here, she is an Akashic record healer, spiritual mentor. She's actually just written her latest book, but how many books have you written?
Right now I have 14 published.
Wow.
Yeah, I wrote, my first book was called A Time of Change. And it was written in 2012 when everything was kind of getting crazy. So people were asking a lot of questions. So we had a lot of meetings with the Akashic Records with Source about that time period. So it deals with a lot of things people asked about the future and technology and various things. And then the second one is called Love, Miracles, and Original Creation. And there's a lot of questions about creation and reality and what it's like in the brain and Kundalini and all kinds of things like that. So that's my free gift for today, is that my latest book.
And we're going to talk about that at the end. That's amazing. So I want to tell everybody the topic for today, and that is forgiveness as a tool to clear and let go of the past.
That's right.
Wow. I mean, I want to talk a little bit about forgiveness and in the traditional sense. And then, I teach based on the Course in Miracles, and that's a completely different forgiveness. And but first, I want to talk about your incredible profession of being an Akashic record reader. Tell everyone that's listening today, what is the Akashic records and what's stored there, and how could that help someone?
Well, the Akashic records simply is considered a library in spirit. And it really goes with the fact that every single moment of creation, not just ourselves, but creation in general, is recorded in spirit. There's nothing that is missed. So people have their own personal record, Akashic record, their own personal book, I should say, in the library. But when I go in there, I don't see a book that I open up and I read. It's just a special prayer that gets me into that particular field of existence. And the information is just there, and it actually comes through in various ways. It's pictures, it's impressions, it's emotions, it's language. So whoever I'm talking to, it seems that the records will deliver the information based on who they are. But really, it's a record of existence. The records of existence, I should say.
Yeah. And what have you seen in your experience of doing this work and for people that it has helped them to access what kind of information so that they can transform what?
Well, what I found about them once I started doing personal readings for people is how ordered they are. I was very surprised at how holistic the records were. In other words, when you go in and you access somebody's soul records, you actually get a picture of what their spirit is like now, what they've accomplished so far, and what they still have to accomplish. You can see what their soul came here for, how well they're doing with that. And you can also discuss any issues they're having in their current life. And it doesn't have to be anything spiritual. They could be grieving over a pet they lost, for example, and you have the ability to just go in and look at that pet and see who that pet is in relationship to them. Because everything people go through has a meaning from them, usually from the past. I always say 99% of everybody you meet, you've known before. So it will help understand relationships, conflicts, as well as connections. It can help you work through those and tell you what you still need to be learning from it. When's a good time to end? Yeah, so it's kind of right. Health issues, you can look at their health, you can look at the causes of health, and et cetera, Bree.
Yeah.
It goes on.
Let's talk a little bit about what you just said, that 99% of the people you meet, you've usually met before. So do you believe that in each life, we all travel with our soul circle that, and can you tell a little bit about that? Like, do we keep meeting the same people over and over and over again each life?
Well, you do for two reasons. One, if you have unreconciled business with those people, there's that level of meeting people that you've known before. So usually those are to complete something or continue something or forgive something. And then you also have galactic families who come in together where they've come from the same star system, let's just say, and they come to the planet at a particular time cycle in order to help progress the planet in some way or move it along in consciousness. So it just depends who they're asking about. People will bring, oh, I want to know about this person or that person, or I want to know about this friend or that friend. And you can tell vibrationally when you look in there if they're part of the galactic soul family or if they're a soulmate that they need to work out things with.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so I think that this is really a great preface for what we're about to talk about, because it's talking about that if everybody keeps coming in to resolve something that we haven't resolved in the past, right, that the question can be like the blanket question can be, and this is what I do now when anyone comes into my life as a new man or a friend, it's like, what is this person here to help me heal? Or what is he helping me? Or what am I here to teach him or her?
Right.
I always ask that now. It's, because I know that everybody's sent to me for a reason. There is a purpose in every meeting. And if I can get ahead of, oh, this means this, which is fine. Like, it looks like it might mean this, but it really, like, if I look at what am I here? What is he teaching me?
Right.
I open up a whole new way of approaching that. And so I just wanted to mention that. So let's dive a little bit into the forgiveness piece, because I know that forgiveness in the conventional sense is, I'm so sorry, Aingeal, because I didn't call you back. And then there's the forgiveness, maybe you'd be like, that's okay. I didn't really want to talk to anybody. But then there's the traditional, or not the traditional, then there's the Course in Miracles, which tells us that forgiveness is just forgiving ourselves for thinking, for having forgotten the truth of who we are. So it's a corrective, it's like, forgive me for believing that I'm not enough. And that's a corrective measure in a way. Correct. Now, the forgiveness that we're talking about with you, I know that you talk about that it helps us clear the past and it's a tool to let go. Tell me more.
Yeah, so I go with you with I'm closer to the Course in Miracles version of forgiveness, but also in the big picture, because it does collapse time. That particular type of forgiveness collapses time, because when you realize that no one's ever done anything to you, not really. Okay. And that everything in the outer world is a reflection of consciousness. I think that's a big thing in general for people to really understand. Well, I was teaching another class one time, and Source says, don't forget to tell them that there is no world. I thought, okay, when somebody tells you that there is no world, you're like, well, what do you mean? I'm looking at this world all the time. But taking it a step further and saying it's projection of mind, it's all a projection of mind. So forgiveness, in the sense that I would like to address today, is a process where when you see something outside that you're judging or that seems to be external to yourself, where you feel like you're in effect of something that's going on. And you can get a hold of yourself and realize, I'm not seeing something out there that's I'm in effect of. I'm seeing something out there that I've helped create. Okay, it takes the whole blame and judgment aspect out of your reality entirely and allows you to kind of say, well, I may not understand what part of my consciousness is projecting that, but the next thing, I'm just going to turn it over to source or universal intelligence to basically, I'm willing to let go of it. I'm willing to change my mind about it, as the Course so wonderfully talks about, and have a different experience. And I always tell people a little story I had with one ex-husband of mine.
One, okay.
Okay. And he was quite an angry man, and we were having this horrible argument one day, and I went out of the house and I was calling him every name under the book under my breath. And I went down to the park and I'm sitting on a swing and I'm fuming. And next thing I hear Jesus actually say to me,
Yeah.
you know, you're making this up. And I said, what do you mean I'm making this up? Well, you want him to be guilty. And I'm like, no, I don't, this sort of thing. And he said, you could choose peace instead. And I was aware at that moment how much I did not want to choose peace. Okay. I was like, no, I'm right. He's an ass. But I sat with it. Probably took me a half an hour before I was ready to say, okay, I choose peace. And literally, Bree, in that moment, the argument was erased from my memory. I could not recall. I tried what we were even fighting about. And I was just had this overwhelming sense of peace. And I went home and he wanted to talk about the argument. And I said, I can't remember what it was about. So it's gone. But that was probably one of my biggest demonstrations that when I say a quantum level, it literally collapsed the memory in my mind. It collapsed the whole event. I could not recall it. And I think that's the most important type of forgiveness that I can talk about, is the fact that no one's done anything to us. We only perceive they have. And if we can only, and we perceive that way because on some level, we all believe we're guilty of something.
Yes.
But if you can remember that, your true self is innocent and it's never been guilty, and nobody else is guilty either. And you got to be willing to see another person as innocent.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I want to really point out that what you're saying, there's so many concepts you're inviting us right now to put on a different pair of glasses and a different perception to all of life. Like, it's, and I remember what you're saying, this whole thing about we are choosing our experience, and that's like a whole lot of self-responsibility. It's like, what do you mean? I didn't choose to be sexually abused, and I didn't choose to divorce and marry someone that ended up drinking. But the whole thing is your perception about how everything, there's the people that will always think that you need to condemn another. That's one group of people. And then there's another group of people that believe that everybody's doing the best they can at every moment with the information that they've got, even if they've done something horrible, they're still working from that. So I think, and that's what courses like the Course help to do, is to transform the mind. And so you're inviting us to look at why we're holding on to that wanting to be right in the argument. So, and the fact that there's always a choice. And I love that lesson in the Course. It's like, I can choose peace instead of this, or I can choose serenity. And I know when I actually hold that as a mantra for a few days or a week, I'm like, oh yeah, no, I can either be right with the parking attendant, or I can choose peace, or I can, continue to just be angry with my mom, or I can choose peace. And it's incredible how fast I restore my energy. And so I just want to say that this whole conversation is a perception shifter. And can we talk a little bit about where a grievance starts? Because in this cleanse, it's not your traditional cleanse, and we are talking about energetic clearing. And I think forgiveness works on that etheric body where if you can address something that's on an energetic state before you're repeating it, and then it becomes an ailment, and then a symptom, and then a disease. Let's talk a little bit about forgiveness and where grievances start to build up, and blaming and resentments.
I think we have a core issue with the belief in guilt. I think when you ask grievances they begin by our belief systems, and we're programmed even from birth that we have original sin. That's the first big lie, isn't it? That we start off at the get-go guilty. And so, of course, guilt demands punishment. And if you start believing in guilt, then you believe that other people are guilty, and you're brought up believing other people are guilty. And there's victims and victimizers, and the guilty need to be punished. And how do you know that you're so innocent? What about it? You may think that there's a loving God up there, but if you were to die tomorrow, are you sure? Are you really sure? So I think we build up grievances because we believe that people can harm us. First of all, we've lost our perception that we are innately innocent, and there's no judge up there that's going to condemn us. I think if we all had that still, we would not perceive other people's behavior as harmful. We'd be able to look at, like you say, everybody's trying to do the best they can, but everybody has their own damage. And, Source told me too, that one of the biggest unhealed issues of the world is grief. That we're looking at a planet of broken hearts because everybody's forgotten the love of God. And everybody's heart's broken. You know how heartbroken you feel if somebody you love breaks up with you or leaves you, and you go through this grief process. Well, imagine like us perceiving that our Father, quote unquote, has gone and doesn't love us anymore. And we're all mourning. We're all in this mourning process. So, and we just can't expect well behavior out of injured people. It just doesn't work, And I was always told that a well person is just naturally harmless. So, I think grievances build up because we've got this inherent belief that guilt is real, that people can hurt us, and we're victims, and they deserve to be punished. And then there's karma and all of that stuff. So I think it builds up from the get-go, ever since you were little. Your mom slaps you across the face, and now you're injured, and now you're wounded, and you're hurt, and who doesn't love me? That sort of stuff. And I think that, we want retaliation. So when you hold on to a grievance, it's really the desire to, in a way, for revenge, to make somebody, how many times people who really believe in karma say they'll get there someday, I'm not worried about it because they'll get there someday, where Source would basically say, no, move beyond to the law of forgiveness and grace. We don't want to hang out in karma, So, yeah. But I think that's how that's all a belief that you're not loved. And of course that starts to weigh on you, and how people treat you and all of that. Go ahead.
And I also like with what you're saying, it's coming from the like, we're never really upset for the reason we think we are. It's like, right. And I think the reason forgiveness is so powerful is because when you're forgiving, let's go back to the parking attendant, like the parking attendant triggered me and I'm angry. And tell me more about this. When I can apply my forgiveness towards him, it actually starts to work on everyone that I've been upset about for the same reason, because I'm forgiving one thing. So I'm forgiving. Is this what you mean when it erases memories from the field? Like that?
Well, I can tell you another quick story that kind of, okay, years ago, I lived in Philly, and I lived in Delaware. I was on my way to a workshop in Philly, and I had to cross this bridge. And at the end of the bridge was a red light. And I didn't have much money with me. I think I had $5 for lunch that day. And at the end of at the stop sign, there's these little children who wanted to wash your windows, right, for money. And I was saying, no, don't wash them, because I knew I didn't have enough money to give them, and I'm like, stop. And they wouldn't stop. They just kept doing it. And I was so furious. I was so angry, feeling, because I was watching myself saying, well, now I have to give them money, or I'm going to feel guilty if I don't, right? So next thing you know, once again, I hear Jesus say, that's your son. And it was like, oh, my God. So of course I pull out my money and I hand the child my money and drive off. So when I get home that day, my own children run up to the car and say, mommy, we made these popsicle trivets, that children make. We made these little trivets and we sold them for $5. So it was like the exact amount that I gave this child, my children got in return. But why I tell you, my biggest lesson out of that is that everybody is you. Everybody is yours. That child is yours. That park attendant, your brother. There's no separation between anybody, and everybody is us. So it really shifted me to look at people differently and have a lot of compassion about whoever they were. So I don't know if that answers, what do you do with that,
Well, no, I think, again, like everything that you're offering today is to put in a new way to see people in the world, which
Right.
can eliminate a lot of like, oh, I need to work on this and this and this and this. No, you don't. Just
Right.
and that in the Course in Miracles, that's the holy encounter, right? Where we encounter another soul, and I am you, you are me, and whatever I think of you, I'm actually thinking of myself. So I really got this lesson when I would go home and I'd be like, oh my gosh, my mom really needs to like study the course, or she needs to like, do something. And it's like, like I need to study the course, or I need to do something, because I am seeing her as broken, which means I'm seeing myself as broken. So and then there's moments in that same trip where I saw my mom as innocent, and I saw all her pain that was just, but I saw this little girl, and I was seeing my innocence, therefore I could see hers.
Right.
And so it was trippy, and Gail, in a moment I was like, wait a minute, it's like it's all a different movie. And I guess that goes back to what you said at the beginning, how the world is an illusion. It's a movie that we are projecting, and I can be in the same home with my mom, and it doesn't even have to be two people. One has a great experience, the other one an awful one. I can be the one having the awful and the good one, and the only thing that changed, guess what? It wasn't my mom.
I know, it's true.
It was me.
I know.
And so I think the good news about that is that when I'm out there in the world and I'm seeing the world as broken, that's an opportunity to say, okay, wow, Brie, like you got to get back to your innocence and the truth and love, because then when I am love, then I will see love, right? And
Right.
So let's talk about, you answered the first part of my question, but let's talk about the second one, and how do we erase memories from the field? And let's actually start by saying memories are stored in the field then.
They're stored in the field, they're stored in your body, they're stored in every living thing. Actually, they can be in a rock, for all that matters, anything at all, memories are stored everywhere. And so, people will often say to me, how do I erase my records, for example? And I always say, you can't erase your records. I mean, once something has happened, it's happened. It's in the field. There's no going in there and remove it, plucking it out of existence. But you can create new timelines for a past event if you need to. So if you're looking at something that is traumatic for you, you can go back in your mind, in your imagination, because your imagination is real. And you create a new scenario. How would I have liked that to have been? And so now you have another timeline next to the old one. And then you're just choosing which one. Well, which one are you going to believe in? Which one do you want to energize? And you make a decision which one you want to have. So with memories, and I do think this whole process of forgiveness that we're talking about does erase memories from cellular structure. Okay, so when you go in and you do forgive on this level, and you choose for peace, or you choose to see love instead of a grievance, then you are transforming chemicals at that stage. You are making decisions in your brain that you're not energizing poison. Okay, so that does start to actually transform the cell and make it different, and make it new. So in that way, and I do think this shift that we're in the world
Yeah.
is biological as well as emotional and spiritual. So it happens on that level. So there's two things I just talked about. One was how to go in and transform a memory that has trauma loaded in it. Okay. Besides the fact that you have to really be able to be willing to accept that nobody hurt you, okay, in the first place, that you're still perfectly intact, you're still innocent, they're still innocent. So there's that level of it. And then there's the level of, well, go in and make a new timeline for yourself, and, go on a different train track, if you will, go that way. And then biologically, literally choose peace. You have to actively choose peace or be willing. But I think what's interesting is how much people aren't willing.
Yeah.
This whole process we have going on of judgment and making people guilty and blaming and not taking responsibility for ourselves is such a habit that when somebody actually presents you with the idea that, well, you don't have to focus on that, you're like, wait, what? What do you mean? Of course I do, but that is a shift chemically, and it cascades throughout the body. So go ahead.
I'm just going to say, I love what you said, because I'm sober. And I remember the first time someone said to me, you don't have to drink today. I've been sober for a long time. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean I don't have to? Like, I cannot drink today? Like, if I don't want to? So it's what you're saying. So that to me, that was the knee-jerk reaction of like, oh, life is tough, let me take a drink. Or, oh, that bothered me, let me take a drink. And when someone pattern interrupted and said, you don't have to do that today, I was like, what?
Yeah.
It was like a new concept. So it's what you're saying, that I also don't have to judge today. I also don't have to struggle today. And, this whole aspect too, it's like, I love when I bring up, and with clients, I work on victimhood, and they're like, oh, I'm not a victim. And I'm like, we all are. We're, like, there's this, we fall prey to, we're also victimized by our own choices in our minds. Like, like you're saying, like, maybe the damage happened, 20 years ago, but I'm keeping the damage alive by continuing to believe that timeline and energize it and enforce it and talk about it. And because of that, I'm filtering the world for that. And I'm treating people the way because of that thing. That to me is victimization. And people are like, no, I'm not. It's like, no, victimhood is forgiveness. I think really helps to not erase, but dissolve victimhood, at least in that moment. In that moment, there's not that victimization. But I have a question. So for everyone listening, and I know that we've got so much richness in here. I could talk to you. We could do like a 5-hour workshop on everything we're talking about. But
Right.
like, if someone just cannot forgive someone, they're here today, they're listening, they like what, like you said, maybe they're not willing to forgive, but they're willing to be willing to be willing to be willing, which is great. We start there. Tell me a little bit about how someone would start. What's something they could do at home today to start forgiveness and letting go?
Well, I can give you an answer. It might be a challenge for someone that you're describing, but the easiest way is when you're home alone and you start going through this litany of crimes that the other person has committed. If you could just stop in the moment and say, I bless him. I bless him, or I bless her, either one. You don't have to have, and especially you don't have an outcome in mind. In other words, you don't want to bless him because you want XYZ to happen. You're just blessing him because that's what God would do. Bless him. So in that process alone, right there, you've just broken all cords that you have with the person. You've severed them. You've stopped your negative mind. You've allowed them also the chance to be healed. Because I think what people don't realize is that as long as we hold grievances against another, we've locked them into a particular moment in time where they've done something or did something, and we don't allow them to be free of that because we're basically holding them to a role that we think that they are. And because
Energetically, right?
energetically, and because of that, they're not free either to have a new experience. So those are the people that you come back and you meet again lifetime after lifetime, because they'll say, oh, I never want to know that person again. And I always, if I'm in a reading, I'll say, well, you will know them again differently if you can't release this, because you bind them. We bind each other, by our thoughts, and we either free each other or bind each other. So when somebody's home and they can't seem to forgive, I always say, well, just remember that you'll stay corded to that person indefinitely until you do release them. Okay. And the truth is God doesn't judge anybody. Source once told me that the only thing it ever does is offer a person another opportunity to know love. That's the only thing that happens. And at the time, like I say, I was with a particular husband who wasn't a nice guy. And I was like, what are you telling me? Are you telling me he's going to be happier than me first?
Right.
Because I was told I had to bless him about a particular thing that we were still corded about. And I had asked, how do I release this cord? And that's the answer I got. Well, you have to bless him every day. And it's like, oh my God, appalling answer, Okay.
Right.
But it was correct.
And it's the intention again, like if we all of us here listening, we have to look at like, what's the ultimate grander goal in all of this? Everybody has the ultimate kind of soul goal. For me, it's true freedom and liberation on all levels. That's the goal.
Right.
And again, another invitation for a new perception that every opportunity is going to keep coming at your door. If I keep choosing the same kind of woman to date, the same kind of man to date, and everyone's coming in to give me the opportunity to step into my power, but I choose there to get out of my power again, that's when they say the same person's going to appear with a different costume. But they're all attempts. This is so important for you to heal. That's why I asked that question now. What am you here to heal? And I learn it so that the next person is hired to help me heal something different. Because if not, it's like the universe is that friendly. It's going to keep knocking at the door and saying, are you ready to heal this self-worth stuff? Here you go. No, he's an X, Y, and Z, da, da, da. Well, okay, we're so love you that we're going to send you another person to heal the same thing. No, da, da, da. Right. So I love this. And this is work that I think, when people understand that, like what you're saying, you're disentangling so much in just, I bless you name. I bless you. And even if you don't mean it, but the goal, again, the choice is peace. That's a beginning. It starts to move a lot of energy. It does. Oh my God, this is so good. I know we're moving into a space where we're going to be listening or experience a beautiful meditation from you. Can you tell us what we are going to be walking through?
Yeah, I'm going to take you into just an inner meditation to examine any grievances you might have within your own heart. And we're going to go in and we're going to transform those grievances back into the field of love. And we're going to remind ourselves of our true nature, which is really innocence. So hopefully people will have an experience of that. Just me one more thing before when we were talking about victimization, I wanted to make the point too that universally, cosmically, we're in archetypes, right? We all live through time periods that are archetypes. And what's really being asked of us with this paradigm splitting and the releasing that you're talking about is we're being asked to move from the crucifixion archetype into the resurrection archetype. Okay, so
that's so important what you just said. Yes.
Yeah, so I think when people want to stay in victimhood, let's examine, all of the ways that martyrdom expresses itself in ourselves and in our lives, and how we see crucifixion happening all the time. And even unfortunately in religions, it's desirable, where people even pray to suffer, in those ways, which is unfortunate, because we really are asked to resurrect now on every level, and I think that's such a new joyful paradigm that we haven't reached yet in this world, but we're being asked to contribute to. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to mention that before we go.
Thank you. I know I launched right into like, let's do this meditation. So thank you for adding that. So yeah, I'll leave it up to you now, and for you to walk us.
Okay. All right. So if everyone can just close their eyes for a moment and pay attention to where you are right now, where you may be sitting or lying, and remove any distractions if there are any in your environment. And I want you to just take a few breaths just to get connected to yourself, and put your attention on your heart. And you might even want to bend your head toward your heart as if you were looking at it. And just be aware of the field of the heart, one of the biggest generators of energy in our bodies. And we're going to talk to our heart as if it's its own beautiful being. And we're going to ask it to show us any areas within us where we still hold grievances. So just take a few minutes now and put your attention on your heart and ask it to show you an event that you may still have a grievance about, a person, a place, anything that may come up. Don't censor it, but just be with it for a moment. And don't forget to put yourself in there if it's appropriate. I want to imagine that you're holding these grievances in your cupped hands in front of you. And entertain the thoughts that no one did anything to you. Nothing happened. You weren't changed. You're still your beautiful, perfect, innocent self as God created you. Loved beyond all measure that can never end. And these people in your cupped hands, they're the same. With your heart's energy, be willing to see them as innocent as well. The crimes they believe they've committed, they have not committed. They're as innocent as you. They're loved by Source just as well. They haven't harmed you and you haven't harmed them. And now I'm asking you to go a step further and release them into the sphere of universal intelligence. Some may call it the Holy Spirit. Some may call it God's love. But release them knowing that it's not your responsibility to judge or to decide what happens to them. So you release yourself from the burden of judgment and allow a higher intelligence, to take it and dissolve it for you. But most importantly, put your attention back on your heart and see yourself inside your own heart. And allow Source to surround you with its eternal, innocent love. And repeat the idea in your mind 3 times. I am innocent. I am innocent. I am innocent. And when you feel you've completed this process, go ahead and open your eyes.
Wow. So beautiful. You know, my cancer experience came up as something that I've done work around it because I had cancer at 16, and it's what it did to me afterwards. There's the victimization that I was holding on to, and it was interesting that it wasn't a person, but it was that experience that I still hold against myself, you know. Is this something that we could do this daily, right? Like people can grab this kind of exercise daily to cleanse of grievances, to do your daily grievance shower, because
Yeah, I am going to record it with a little bit more finesse and some music in the background. And when I do, I'll be happy to send you the link to that people can use every day.
That's beautiful, because what we don't realize is that we've been working so hard at mastering our financial skills, what we look like, but the game is now energy, vibration, frequency. And if we don't learn how to, it's like we have to have these energetic showers and this cleanup and this release quickly, just like this. This doesn't have to take 5 hours. And we have to know, when am I carrying someone else's? When do I feel entangled? Because that's going to be a very high price to pay as we keep moving on. So your work is so important. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, because I was also told by Source one time too, somebody had asked a question about capital punishment, you know, killing, and what does Source think about the death penalty? And it basically said, you don't have a right to kill anybody. And I thought that was interesting. It says, because when you do, you deny them the opportunity for redemption. And that was wonderful, because it was like suggesting, hey, in any moment, somebody could be in prison for life, but at any moment, you know, they could have an awareness.
They can choose again.
Or they could have an awareness of God's love and come out a totally different person. So I thought that hit home too. That made the point, you know, that when you judge somebody, it could be the smallest thing, you know. Do I have time to tell one other tiny little story?
Yeah. Go ahead.
It was years ago. It was just a simple thing, but I was in an elevator going up a 3rd floor for a meeting. And there was a fella in the elevator with me, and he was this nice, handsome young man. He was dressed really well, and his shoes were wonderful, but he had a coat on that was too big for him, you know. And I remember saying to myself, nice clothes, but lose the coat.
Right.
And, you know, Reese, all of a sudden he starts fidgeting with his coat, you know, and he started very self-conscious. And I caught it, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, I just made that guy feel so insecure. So right then I changed my mind. I said, oh no, you look wonderfully. You look great. You look perfect, you know. And all of a sudden he stands up straight, and he brushed himself off. And it's just a small example, but it just makes the point, you know, of we're not really conscious of how we do affect everybody with what we do think about them. And, you know, one other little one, I used to do years of psychic surgery years ago. And this girl who was paralyzed asked me to come and work on her. She had hit a deer on her way home and she was paralyzed from the neck down. She hit a tree. She just wanted to be able to, feel her fingers again. And, honestly, Bree, it took me 3 hours when I entered just the doorway of her room to cut out from her fields all of the thought projections that people had sent toward her. Like every time she went outside with a wheelchair, and even thoughts from her own parents, part of them wish she had died because she was in such a state, and other people feeling so sorry for her. And here's this girl trying to feel. And how could she feel when everybody's projecting, oh, you poor thing, you poor damaged person in the wheelchair? And 3 hours it took me just to cut out the stuff in her fields to be able to get to her body. And that was quite an eye opener too. I thought, wow, we just are not, we're so not aware of our thoughts and what we're doing. And here we are in this resurrection process. We're being asked to, go to a higher consciousness place and evolve. And we're just so habitual with the old ways of doing things.
But this was a pattern interrupt. And what you said was so critical, because now I know that when I am sitting here judging my uncle or judging the neighbor, it's like the Course tells us there are no private thoughts.
That's right.
You displayed it beautifully in the elevator. You didn't speak anything out loud.
No.
You just thought it, but he got the energetic, hook. And he felt it, and he just felt subconscious, and the other way the same. And, I'll tell one quick story. When I was in the south of France, I was traveling the world, and this is when I was in the height of my eating disorder. And I was working with one of my mentors in Spain, and she's a Course in Miracles teacher. And I was like, the last thing I wanted to do, but I had committed, was to go to the Cannes Film Festival. I was like, I have nothing to wear. I don't feel good. I don't want to be around people. Like, I'm in this recovery mode. She says, this is what I want you to wear. I want you to wear God.
Oh, nice.
Every time you meet somebody, you're meeting God. You're not worried about what do they do? What do they look like? What are they thinking of you? No, you put on God, and then you're going to go meet many versions of God. And it was a tall order, but it brought me relief from time to time when I was like, okay, focus on the God in them. And then I could see past their face, past their eyes, past their soul. And all of a sudden I'm literally with their divinity and my divinity. Right. And it's a soul to soul. It was like I had, those glasses that could go 3D. But then my ego, that was quite strong at that point. It kept bringing me back to the what I was so habitually hooked to believing and judging about myself and the world. So, I mean, amazing. You're so amazing. And
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You're wonderful too. I love your honesty and your stories too, because that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Well, we're here, you and I, I always say, like, the horrific stuff or the hard times, their curriculum, because I'm going to get to talk about it in one day at one point. And I know now that I'm not alone. It happens to everybody. And I'm not tied to that illusionary bondage now, so I can talk about it. And that's a gift. Thank you, so. I want to ask you, I have quick questions to ask. I'm going to pick one. We'll see what Spirit picks. And then I would love for you to share with everybody a little bit more about your free gift. I know you told us already, but I'm going to ask you one question. If you had to tell your 15-year-old self 2 things as a value system for life, what would they be?
2 things, my 15-year-old self: stay away from boys.
Yes.
And I think I would love myself more and make more choices for my own health, my own betterment, not be so concerned about how I'm received by other people. Just be able to be in my own authority more. And I wish
Mm.
that I had any kind of mentor or teacher back in that day to kind of talk to me about things like that, as a teenager, you're not thinking about that. You're worried about your clothes and friends. And I was just not somebody who was ever popular with popular girls. So, but once again, though, I wasn't my own. I wasn't my own being. I didn't have my own sense of
Yeah.
self. And it'd be nice if they would kind of teach more self-sovereignty things in school, or just, your parents really, that you're loved mostly no matter what. And because I don't think you're left with that as a teenager, when you're not left with friends, and you're not left with money to buy lots of nice clothes when you're 15. To have somebody tell you that, hey, you're not rejected anyway. There's still you and your gifts to help bring out people's inner gifts, their own gifts.
Yeah.
Because everybody has some. And, people always ask me, well, how'd you get psychic? And I said, I did a lot of journaling, a lot of examining of beliefs and what things meant to me, and then changing my mind about a lot of things. But that was later in life.
But changing your mind, that's so important. That was a thing of today. But I love what you're saying, because there are some pioneers in education that might be listening today or not listening, that get to implement that value system to little girls, like, yes, be your own authority. Like, we are, culture teaches us you don't have authority. And it's
That's
like,
right.
But that's going to change. I'm believing strong for that. Like I am, that we are going to get there eventually. Well, we are running out of time, and I guess we could keep going and going. So you told us already at the beginning, but you're giving everyone a free copy of your latest book. Is that correct?
Correct. It's called Love, Miracles, and Original Creation. And the link we gave you, so you'll be able to put
It's down below.
You'll be able to put it out there. So enjoy that. And I'll also be making that meditation over for people.
And you'll send it to me so I can put
and I'll
it
send
there.
it so you can give it out as you choose. Okay.
Okay, that's beautiful. Oh my gosh. Well, all I want to say is, whoo, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. It was wonderful being with you.
Yeah. And to everybody, I just want to say, go to the Facebook page and go ahead and tell me what was the most impactful thing today. You are going to want to listen to this again and again. So if you want, upgrade and buy the whole 7-day life cleanse, so you have this, because this conversation was activating, and it activated the truth of your innocence, which is out. It's a healing. You need to hear these things because your body knows. And I'm just so grateful. So any last words of wisdom before we just...
Yeah, I just wanted to comment too about, when you choose the love paradigm, right, over I call it the death paradigm we've been living in. When you choose the love paradigm, one of the things you can expect, and when you say, how do I do that? It's just say that out of your mouth. I choose the love paradigm. You're like telling source, I'm switching from the death paradigm to the love paradigm. And what starts to happen is, at least for me, all these old memories will start coming up to your mind. I mean, things that you didn't even know you remembered. And you'll say, what the heck is happening? I remember I chose love, and I'm remembering every death that I ever experienced in my life in minutest detail. I'm remembering my dad playing with me when we were little, what's going on? And source basically said, you have to understand that the death paradigm is in your cells. And if you want to release this stuff out of your cells, once you choose is the operative word, the love paradigm. Anything that is not that is coming up out of the cells and leaves room for this new paradigm to take place. So I guess if I had to say anything, make a different choice, because this old paradigm we're leaving really is a death paradigm. And if you really look at it, you can see that evidenced everywhere. Okay. So
there you go, everyone.
There you go.
Choose again. And
that's right.
Again, so grateful for you being here, and thank you to you all. I'll see you tomorrow. And meanwhile, we are both sending you so much love. Bye for
Yeah.
now.
Bye. Thank you.